Hello everyone, and welcome to the Erik Bryant Show, Episode 3. This is Erik Bryant, and I'm here tonight to talk about sports. Asked a few questions on Facebook earlier, got some responses for that. I'll be sharing those and giving my own opinions about the questions that were asked, and talk a little bit about James Holmes, guy we were talking about yesterday, who had the unbelievable act of violence in Aurora, Colorado. We'll start off with the wrestling news really quick. It was on Twitter. Kurt Angle announced on Twitter that not only did he get married again yesterday, but today he also reported that he and his new wife will be having a child. So Kurt Angle will be a father once again, so congratulations, Kurt, on that. And not trying to be funny, but I hope this marriage goes better for you than the last one did. Chris Jericho said that on the 1000th episode of Raw he will steal the show, and he was quoted as saying he's the one that they're all going to be talking about when the show's over. So that, I guess, an interesting quote. Of course, Chris Jericho, before he came back earlier, said that it would be the end of the world as we know it, and he hasn't really done anything to prove that whole moniker thus far. So I don't know, maybe he plans on doing something. If AJ and Daniel Bryan's wedding is the final segment or something, he'll probably crash that, since reports are that Jericho will be wrestling Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam. And it'll probably be something like that, but we'll have to wait and tune in. As I said a few days ago, they always try to plan a big summer angle, and 2010, of course, was the whole Nexus angle where they trashed the ring, beat up everyone around the ring. Last year was CM Punk shoot interview, so this year they're trying to set up another big summer angles, and Jericho might be involved in that. We'll have to wait and find out. A few days ago, it was reported that the WWE has actually let it slip by and lost the trademark to the whole ECW name, and there's actually a company based in New York that filed for the trademark of the ECW name. And earlier Paul Heyman was asked to respond to that, to get his comments, and this was his quote. He said, "Dumb shits who think they can recapture the magic. Some people never learn. Letters don't mean anything. WWE's ECW wasn't ECW. Anyone can buy letters, big deal. ECW was based on original ideas. It's called having an imagination. Obviously, trying to be a duplicate ripoff of the past is not new or original nor game-changing. ECW was a product of its time. When I wrote for SmackDown in 2002-2003, I didn't try to duplicate ECW. You move on with the times and people. ECW One Night Stand was supposed to be a one-night stand, not a way to remarry your ex. If someone wants to take a try at redoing ECW, knock yourself out. Go for it. Maybe your investment is smarter doing something new." And as 99.9% of the time, things that Paul Heyman says and does, I totally agree with the man. Also, Dolph Ziggler reported that he was upset with Sin Cara after the Money in the Bank match for working stiffly during the match, and he not the way some might think, and he was not protecting him during the match during a top rope move that Sin Cara does, known as the Spanish Fly. Dave Meltzer, a well-known writer and reporter from the Wrestling Observer, said that he was up close and personal. He saw the move, and Dolph Ziggler was actually slipping halfway before Sin Cara started into the move, so there was no way for him to be able to protect him. A lot of other people who were close to the incident say that it kind of was Dolph's fault. So Dolph was saying he was going to file a complaint about the spot to WWE higher-ups, Vince McMahon, to try and get Sin Cara possibly punished or whatever. So kind of sounds like Dolph Ziggler's turning into the next Randy Orton. Hopefully not, because I actually like Dolph. If he starts turning into Randy Orton, my opinion of him will probably change quickly, as well as many others' opinions as well. Had a question on Facebook earlier, wrestling related. What or who would you like to see the WWE feature in a DVD? Asked that last night, and I had a man, John Mully, say he would like to have a Dolph Ziggler DVD. I replied and said he might not have enough to put on 3 discs, because one or half of the discs might be a bunch of Spirit Squad matches that people didn't watch when it was on, and probably wouldn't buy a DVD to watch it either. But before Dolph's career is over, he might have enough to fill up a 3-disc DVD if they continue to use him the way they have lately. Had a response tonight again for that question by my wife, actually, Lauren Bryant. She says The Miz, of course. So how many WWE champions don't have a DVD? Don't worry, I'll wait. She also said he's got enough, because she knew what I was going to reply. The same thing I did about Dolph. He's got enough story for disc 1, his actual story, and then enough matches for disc 2 and 3 with the whole Tough Enough, the Miz and Morrison, the tag team he was in, Show Miz with the Big Show, and some of his WWE Championship matches. And the DVD obviously can be called Miz is Awesome. Not really sure how many people would buy that. I know she would, of course, the first day it came out. But I don't know, Miz has a following. He has some fans. He probably would sell a pretty good bit of DVDs. And it might be interesting. I think maybe I just look at guys like, even though they do make DVDs these days, because CM Punk's going to have one coming out in either December or early January next year. The DVDs I like to see, though, because being an old school fan, are from like guys who have already been in the business and have retired and things like that. They've already got like the Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper have already got their DVDs. But I don't know, just being old school is like, I like the whole story on the Bobby Heenan DVD, his DVD. I like to see a DVD for Gorilla Monsoon, because he used to be a wrestler. He have a lot of you can have matches on there, do a storyline, have some things like they did in Bobby Heenan's DVD, where Gorilla on the commentating side of the whole spectrum, some of the matches he commentated with alongside Bobby Heenan that were really entertaining, because those two work well together. Speaking of Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan, they've had like the Best of Saturday Night main event. They got the Best of Clash of the Champions from WCW, and if they have footage, and I know they do, because they had on WWE On Demand Comcast, the WWE Classics, they were showing the old Primetime Wrestlings. I like to see something like a Best of Primetime Wrestling. Some of the matches that were good on there, some of the segments they had ending the shows and things like that. But of course, that's coming from an old school fan. Also something that probably a lot of people would say they wouldn't care about or wouldn't buy, but I'd actually like to see it, how it's evolved from, well, I'd say how it's evolved from good to really bad, but maybe a DVD documentary type thing on the history of women's wrestling, So if nothing else, the younger fans can see what women's wrestling used to be and what it's supposed to be, with wrestlers like the Fabulous Moolah and Wendy Richter and Mae Young. And I don't mean Moolah and Mae in their 80s, but in the Attitude Era, getting powerbombed through tables by Bubba Ray Dudley. I mean when they were in their prime wrestling, sensational Sherry Martel, you know, those kind of women. How it's, because sometimes it's just shudder to think how the women's wrestling has went from Fabulous Moolah to Kelly Kelly and the Bella Twins. I mean, that's called downhill, among other things. But I'll be nice and just leave it to it's called downhill. Also, going to give my opinions on SmackDown from last night, but I will save that. If I have time later on, I'll do that. If not, I can always get to that tomorrow. Briefly, just one thing in basketball: the Timberwolves signed backup center Greg Steemsma, who did play for the Boston Celtics. With Steemsma gone and Damon Hollins, the other backup center, being signed yesterday, or the other day, the Boston Celtics, I guess, have made room for their two big men signings on draft day, with Jared Sullinger and Fab Melo, as Steemsma and Hollins have found other teams to play for. While I have a few more minutes here in part one, I'll talk about this, the story that broke yesterday over the country, well, Aurora, Colorado, with James Holmes shooting 71 people, killing 12, wounding 59. It's now being reported, which didn't take long at all, one day after the incident, read that inmates are talking about killing James Holmes. And I don't know, don't usually like to say really harsh, mean things about people, but if they did kill him, it really wouldn't break my heart. I mean, after what he did yesterday, I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't be heartbroken. They'd just probably see the news and say, oh, okay, and then move on. Kind of like the whole Jeffrey Dahmer dying in prison thing. You can't really feel sympathetic for someone who kills people, eats them, and stores their remains in his refrigerator. Another dumb white person move that, like we talked about yesterday. But I don't know. Quickly, baseball. A few things about that. The Boston Red Sox tonight, before their game with the Toronto Blue Jays, honored longtime catcher and captain Jason Varitek. Pre-game ceremony that took place tonight in Fenway, and Jason Varitek ranks as the all-time leader in games caught in Boston Red Sox franchise history. Last I checked, in that game in the 8th inning, they were trailing by 1, which would be kind of symbolic for them this year. They pay tribute to one of their former players that was good, and then they go out on the field and lose. The Los Angeles Dodgers have switched their trade talk attention from Chicago Cubs pitcher Ryan Dempster to Chicago Cubs pitcher Matt Garza, but those trade talks might not be as strong now, as tonight Matt Garza was pitching in the game against the St. Louis Cardinals, and St. Louis left the game in the fourth inning with an injury. I don't know the severity of it. I haven't had a report on that. And also, quickly, the White Sox get some help out of their bullpen, or for their bullpen, as they acquire Brett Myers from the Houston Astros for 2 minor league pitchers and a player to be named. And in a few minutes, I'll be back with some football news, and we'll talk about the other question of the night, which is, what is the most annoying thing that people do in public that make you mad? I'll be back in a few minutes.